Good evening, friends. Welcome to the live coaching classes. And these classes are for intermediate paper 4, part 2, indirect taxes. Let me introduce myself. I am C.A. Swati Agarwal, faculty of indirect taxes from Board of Studies, Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. And we have Mr. C.A. Deepak Jain with us. We both are mentors for you for today's session. And though I will, introduce you about the this taxation indirect taxes because you are reading it for the first time, indirect taxes. So you must have a lot of apprehensions like what does this cover, whether this paper is difficult or not, what does it involve, how to study this paper. So being a faculty for indirect taxes in Board of Studies, I think we receive queries on daily basis by mail and telephonically. So I will apprise you with the overall framework, basically what does this paper involve and how you need to prepare for this paper, but how to start your studies. And Deepak will then take over the session to the technical aspects of chapter 1, which is GST and introduction. So let's start basically. Friends, first of all, I would like to say that I hope that you are aware of that there is a BOS app, Board of Studies app. So being a student at intermediate level, I expect that you must have this app in your mobile. It will really help you. Trust me. In my days, when we I qualified, when we used to study, there were no so much facilities given to us. But now we at Board of Studies work very hard to make everything student friendly and how we can reach to the students, to help you to make learning easy. So one thing I will recommend you that please download the BOS app so that you will be always in touch with what all the latest developments, what all is latest changes, what are the latest developments, what are the latest revisions at your Board of Studies which has taken place, and you will always be in line at the same pace what all the changes are taking place for any revision in the content, any syllabus, but all the new publications are released and everything. And this paper 4, this is, at intermediate level is divided into two parts basically. One is direct taxes and another one is indirect taxes. Indirect taxes is for 40 marks and direct taxes is for 60 marks. At this level, at intermediate, for the first time, I think you must be studying taxes. You must be amused to know that what is tax and what is the relevance of tax, why are we studying it, and a lot of questions must be there in your mind. So friends, let me tell you basically what is tax. Tax is something which we pay to the government for the public services which the government pay to us. But no, it is not a voluntary payment. We don't pay to the government voluntarily. Tax is a legal obligation. It is enforced by law. We are bound to pay this in taxes. Now you must be wondering, ma'am, we are studying, we are a student, so how are we paying taxes? We are not paying taxes, you must be thinking. But no, your answer is wrong because even at the student level, you are paying taxes. Taxes are of two types. One is direct tax and another one is indirect taxes. Direct taxes, is directly related to your income level, like it is in direct proportion. Once if a person is rich, he's paying more income tax, and once you start earning, then the direct taxes come into effect if your income increases up to a specified limit. But indirect taxes, you can't escape of it. Indirect taxes you are paying right now as well. Yes, you are paying right now as well. Because indirect taxes is something which is enforced by law and it is paid equally by everyone. So it is generally said that indirect taxes is regressive in nature because all the consumers equally bear the burden irrespective of their ability to pay the taxes. While in case of direct taxes, it is progressive in nature because person who is earning high, that person is paying tax more. All these things are also discussed in the study material with you in the chapter 1. These are the basic things which which I want to tell you in the first session, that basically what does all these taxes are, how important they are. So now let me give you an example how you are paying indirect taxes. You must be purchasing stationery, when you are purchasing stationery, when you go to a shop to buy any books or anything relating to your study, you are paying indirect taxes. And this tax is irrespective of that whether you belong to a very high class income level or you are just a middle class. Each and every student pays the same amount. Similarly, like when you go to a restaurant or whenever you consume anything, you buy any apparels, like you go to any shopper shop or anything, you go to any store, you pay the taxes, right? So this tax is paid by everyone, irrespective of whether you are earning or not. It is not income tax, like it will start when you will start the earning your income. So this is something which I have briefed you about taxes. What is tax and whether we are paying it or not and how it is affecting us. Now friends, let's come to the our syllabus part. So this is your first class. So I hope that I would like to tell you basically this paper indirect taxes is for 40 marks and how you need to plan your strategy. This is the first class and you must be beginning your studies. So I think at this point of time, what is more relevant is that how to make a study plan, how to start your preparation for this paper. Because later on, whenever we will get time, we even reach out to students by mail or queries, and even in these type of sessions as well, that how to revise your preparation, how to revise the syllabus day before the examination, and what is the how to make a timetable, time plan, what to revise it for examination, and how to solve computational questions. I will try to touch this whenever we will go to some computational topics like when the questions in computation like exemptions from GST. But basically, first of all, let me apprise you about the basic concepts. So this paper, indirect taxes, is covered into 2 study materials. There are 2 modules, module 1 and module 2. Basically, all the substantive provisions of law are covered in module 1 and all the procedural parts are covered in module 2. It is very important to have a strong hold over the substantive provisions of law, because this is the first time you are studying. If you have got hold over the substantive provisions, then you will be able to understand the things in a very much better manner and to apply the knowledge in your practical scenario as well. Then the procedural aspects are covered in the module 2 of study material. So coming to the question that which edition is applicable for you, study material August 2021 edition is applicable for November 2022 examination, right? Please note down that August 2021 edition is applicable for November 2022 examination, right? And now you must be wondering what is the cutoff date applicable for your examination. So Finance Act of a particular year is relevant for the next 2 attempts. So for November 22, basically Finance Act 21 is applicable, and the cutoff date for notification and circulars is 6 months prior to the date of examination. So for November 22 examination, the cutoff date applicable for notification and circulars is 30th April 22, right? 6 months prior to the date of examination. Now, friends, these are the basically cutoff dates. Why the cutoff date comes into relevance? Why they said that GST is a very dynamic law. GST, goods and services tax, is very dynamic in nature because it involves lot of amendments throughout the year. The reason behind this is that because GST is not only once the Finance Act is passed, then the law is settled. This is a rule-based legislation, and throughout the year, notification and circulars come into play, and they amend the rules, right? So this is very dynamic in nature because it is continuously changing. This law is continuously changing, and we need to be whenever any law is constantly changing, there must be a cutoff date by which the students are expected to appear before the examination. Like you can't be expected to learn what all the recent amendment has taken place just 2 days before examination, right? So there's so then concept of cutoff date comes into play because it is a constant changing law. and each and every day notification and circulars come into play. So what we have, what is decided is that all the significant notification circulars which are issued 6 months prior to the date of examination are relevant for you, right? So before starting anything else, let us first see what all is given where. You must be familiar with the ICAI website. It is your own website for you only. So you must be conversant with it, that from where everything is given and where you need to search for it. So let us have a quick look at the ICAI website, right? See, this is your website, icai.org. Then we have to go to students. When we go to the students tab, then we need to go to BOS knowledge portal, because everything related to students education is imparted by Board of Studies. So after icai.org, you need to go to students tab. Then you need to click BOS knowledge portal. What all is given therein is foundation course, intermediate course, final course. Then you have to click intermediate course. Then all the number of papers are given. You have to click paper 4 taxation. Then if you go to paper 4 taxation, all the relevant publications which are material for you are given therein. One is study material, another is study guidelines, statutory update, MCQs and case scenarios booklet, then RTP, suggested answers, mock test paper, revisions in BOS publication. This one is very important. Question papers and references for quick reasons. So let me tell you what all are these basically. Just go to the another screen. Now we need to go to, let me go to whiteboard, open board. Okay, screen is not visible, okay. Share screen. Is the screen visible to you? Okay. In case it is not visible, you please let me know. Right. So what I was telling you was how to search the things for at ICAI.org. First of all, you need to go to our website, our own website for you only, and then you need to go to student section, then BOS knowledge portal. Okay, let me again show you students, then Board of Studies knowledge portal, right? Then all the courses are given therein. You have to go to intermediate course, then paper number 4, select the paper number 4 taxation. Then all the relevant publications which are important for you are given therein. One is study material, then study guidelines, statutory update, MCQs and case scenarios booklet, then revision test papers, suggested answers, MTP. Revisions in BOS publications for section B indirect taxes, do not ignore it. This is very important. Then question paper and references for quick revision. Now, one by one, I am going to apprise you what does all these publications contain, basically. Study material, I have already told you. Let me give you a brief introduction, because then the topic GST and introduction, the technical section will be taken by Deepal. Otherwise, we will take more time. So I am briefing you. One is study material, I have already told you, which you need to go through for at the time of preparation of your study. Very elaborative, very exhaustive content along with summary is given. Trust me, when you will go through it now, you yourself will feel that all the concepts are clear, itself. because lot of examples, lot of illustrations, diagrammatic presentation, everything is given in the study material. Then basically, what is the study guidelines? Study guidelines, in the study material, there is syllabus is given. What all the topics, what all substantive provisions and procedural laws are to be studied by you. Then study guidelines basically covers the exclusions from the syllabus. What all is not expected from you in the examination. So it is very important to go through the study guidelines, right? Let me show it to you. I hope the screen is visible. Study guidelines. Okay, study guidelines for November 22 examination. So basically, what does it show? It let me tell you. It basically specifies the exclusions from the syllabus, right? Syllabus is given in your study material. Like in case of charge of tax topic, rate of tax is not expected from you. Rate of tax, whether it is for goods or it is for services, will be given to you in the examination, that you need not memorize, right? Okay. Okay. Yes, we are doing it. Okay. Okay. So this box I made. These are the exclusions, right? For these exclusions, basically. Then coming to the topics, like rate of tax is not expected from you. Screen sharing. Right. Then rate of tax is not expected from you, and you need not know the determination of nature of supply, interstate or intrastate. This will be given in the question. Very basic understanding is given in the study material chapter that you need to know. Rest, whether the supply is an inter or intrastate, it will be given in the question. Then exemptions is given for the supply of services in the syllabus. Exemptions for supply of goods, right? These are excluded from the syllabus. What happens is that sometimes few things might be given in the study material only for the sake of understanding, only so that you are aware of these provisions. You are conversant with there are exemptions for supply of goods as well, so that you come to know. Otherwise, what will happen is that you will think that the exemptions are there only for supply of services. So some few additional information might be given in the study material for the purpose of understanding, for the purpose of general knowledge, but that is not expected in examination. So it is very important to go through the study guidelines because it contains the exclusions from the syllabus. I'm just covering the few key points, but I am advising you to go through it very thoroughly. Input tax credit rule 42, 43. Then payments of tax, TDS and TCS. This is not included in the syllabus, right? Then which edition is applicable for you? August 21 edition of study material is relevant for you. And statutory update. What is statutory update basically? Statutory updates contains the significant notifications and circulars, amendments made by significant notification and circulars up to the cutoff date which is applicable for you. So basically, the entire content which is included in the August 21 edition of study material, except the exclusions mentioned herein, means study guidelines, and the statutory update which contains notifications plus circulars. They are relevant for the said examination. Let me erase it because otherwise, it will create trouble for you. Right? I'm erasing the highlighted portion because otherwise it will create confusion to you. Fine. So by now we know what is study material, what is study guidelines, what is statutory updates. Now, what is this MCQ and case scenarios booklet? This paper, taxation of 100 marks, is divided into two parts. Part 1 is, multiple choice question based. 30 marks are dedicated for MCQs and integrated case scenarios, and 70 marks is for descriptive question. So, like for section B, indirect taxes, 40 marks paper, 12 marks are dedicated to 30% of 40, that is 12. It is dedicated to MCQs and integrated case scenario. Rest is for descriptive part. So you need to revise the multiple choice questions and integrated case scenario from this booklet. Then revision test paper. These revision test papers are issued before examination so that you can check your level of preparedness for your paper, how much you have understood it and all. Then suggested answers. Suggested answers basically are the past examination questions and answers. Mock test paper are similar to the examination pattern. You need to solve it within the time span of 3 hours so that you have a fair idea of your whether you are able to complete your paper within the time limit or not. Then it comes to revisions in BOS publication. This is very important. What does revisions contain? It basically sometimes when we make the study material, we have got some interpretation. Then due to any change, if we feel that there could be a better interpretation, or there any change in these above publications is there, then that will be covered in revisions in BOS publication. Any change in any of the publication which I have already told you, like be it in study material, be it in statutory update, be it in MCQ and case scenarios booklet, be it in RTP. Any change in any publication of indirect taxes, you will get in revisions in BOS publications. Then question papers, then references for quick revision. I think it includes a summary. But otherwise also, friends, we have included the summary of each and every chapter in the let us recapitulate section of the study material. Each and every chapter, for each and every chapter, you have the summary with you. Of module 1, that is which contains substantive provision, as well as for module 2, which contains the procedural part. You have the summary for the entire indirect taxes, which is covered at intermediate level. So I don't feel you will have any sort of problem while revising your paper because it is very elaborative. So what we have discussed by now is the study guidelines and the statutory updates. It contains the amendments, cut off significant notification in circulars, which is applicable for you. And for November 22 examination, these statutory updates will be posted very shortly. Right? So study guidelines I have explained to you, statutory updates I have explained to you. Then MTP I have told you that it is basically to know the level of preparedness, and you need to solve it within 3 hours. All these things come into play when you are thorough with your study plan, right? Then let's see one other important thing, which is section and skill wise weightage, which you need to aware, right? This we have go to BOS knowledge portal, right? Then upon BOS knowledge portal, section wise weightage, see, first of all we have gone to ICAI.org, then students tab, then BOS knowledge portal, and here section wise weightages for subjects is given and skill wise weightage is also given. So let's see the section wise weightage first. From May 2020, what does it mean? That from May 2020 onwards, all these section wise weightages are applicable for you. It is given for all the papers, and we are looking for indirect taxes.
Your screen is not visible. You can share it again.
Screen is not visible. Okay. One of the students, Mr. Garvit Rai, has asked that do MCQs have negative marking? No, there is no negative marking for MCQs for November 22 examination. And one more thing, no reasoning is also expected from you. Mr. Garvit, you need not, give reasons for the answers for the multiple choice questions. Basically, no reasoning is expected from you, and there is no negative marking in November 22 examination for MCQs. So you must be happy to know this.
Yes,
So what we were, discussing was section-wise weightage. This I have opened from BOS Knowledge Portal. It is given on the first page itself. This is indirect taxes, 40 marks. What is this section? Basically, we have divided the syllabus into 3 sections. And section 1, the weightage for section 1 is 50 to 80% marks. And it involves the topics, it covers the topics, basically all the substantive provisions like levy and collection of CGST and IGST, then basic concepts of time and value of supply. Supply is a fundamental, is a, root of GST, concept of supply, composite, mixed supply, reverse charge, then exemptions from tax, composition levy, time and value, input tax credit, very important. And computation which is integrated on these topics is computation of GST liability. All these are covered in section 1, and it carries the maximum weightage, 50% to 80%. Then comes to the section 2. The weightage of this section is 25% to 40%, and it covers the procedural aspects of GST law, that is registration, tax invoice, credit and debit notes, e-way bill returns, and payment of tax. Then the third section basically covers the basic principles of GST law, and the weightage is obviously the lowest one, 0 to 5%, because it only covers the 2 topics, that is concept of indirect taxes, concept and features of indirect taxes, principal indirect taxes, then GST law and introduction including constitution aspects. As I have already told you that Mr. Deepak will apprise you with this topic, this section 3. Today itself, that is an introduction of GST including constitutional aspects, right? So this we have discussed section-wise weightage. What do we mean by the skill-wise weightage? Basically, at intermediate level, what is expected from you? And which level of learning and knowledge is expected from an intermediate student? Obviously, there is a difference between the expectations for the inter as well as for final level students. At intermediate, we expect you to have a thorough understanding of the provisions of law, as well as you must be able to apply those knowledge, apply those, fundamental aspects, apply those legal aspects in the practical scenario, right? Although at final level, one more skill is expected from you, that is evaluation and synthesis, integration of various aspects. So at inter level, but application of a single provision is expected from you. You can also see the skill-wise weightage. For skill-wise weightage, Paper-4B, indirect tax laws. Comprehension and knowledge is 20% to 45%, and level 2 analysis and application is 55% to 80%. So I hope I am clear. And I have apprised you how to, start your study. First of all, it is important before starting any study that you should know your syllabus. What is the syllabus? What I have to read? From where I have to read? What all is included in it? What is expected from you? Then only you will be, in the right path at the preparation level. Because then only you will be aware of all the publications which are relevant for you. And friends, I must say that you are lucky enough that you are able to have the benefit of these live coaching classes. At our time, these classes not used to be not there, and they are really very helpful. If you take the benefit of it, they are very fruitful for you, and I hope that you will enrich yourself with these classes and your study. And meanwhile, whenever we will get an opportunity to have tell you about the other general important things, we will apprise you. So in this session, I have apprised you all the basic things before starting your study, what all is relevant for you, why indirect taxes, whether you are also paying taxes at this moment or not, and everything. Any query? I am not finding any other query. Mr. Garvit has asked that I have already replied. So let's. I have seen the queries. Miss Jhanvi has asked, ma'am, what about the amended part in RTPs and MTPs? From where to practice extra question? Rekha has asked. Rekha, this study material is an integrated one. Rekha, this study material is an integrated one. It includes the, all the concepts which is relevant for you, statutory provisions, so that, a legal aptitude is developed in you. And then the analysis of the sections, including the summaries. And other than this, all the questions and answers and numerous examples are also given for you for the purpose of practice. And if you want to have more practice, then obviously after completing your course, you can go through the revision test papers and mock test papers as well. They will be, very relevant for you at that point of time. And Lavanya has asked that, ma'am, indirect taxes is more scoring, right? Of course, indirect taxes, is the most, growing also, as I'll say, because of all the young chartered accountants are, going in this field. It is very dynamic in nature. And obviously, it is very interesting. And yes, if you will study right, everything is scoring. And one thing I can tell you is that don't go for selective studies. Beat any paper. This is the my general and personal advice to you. Everything is important from examination point of view. And when you study something now, your objective should be to learn the things. Learn the things. The more you will learn in the right manner, you will automatically able to score good marks. Ms. Jhanvi has asked, ma'am, what about the amended part in RTPs and MTPs? So amended part, obviously revision test paper, what all questions they will be covered in the revision test papers. They are updated only. They are based on the latest amendments and everything only. And mock test paper also you need to solve before examination. And I hope that by now I have already covered thoroughly all the important aspects which you need to know before starting your study. So, I'm also running, we have got less time. So I think we should hand over the session to Mr. Deepak, and he will apprise you about the fundamental aspects, introduction to GST law. This is the chapter 1 of your study material. You can go through from your study material side by side simultaneously. First of all, listen to what Deepak is making you understand the things. Then after the session is over, I will advise you to go to the chapter of the study material. You will, or when you will go through the things simultaneously, you will be able to memorize better. You will be able to understand better. You will be able to appreciate better. So thank you, friends. Over to Deepak. Deepak, please take over the session.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for the introduction of the topic and appraising the students. This was really helpful. And with the students know the direction, where they have to go, what they have to see, and what they need to look into. Hope the students have really benefited from this, and they will take this in the right spirit, and this will only support them in doing the rest of the study, what they have to do. Thank you, Swati ma'am. So let me share my screen Swati ma'am, there are some questions. If you could answer them as well.
Yeah, sure.
Regarding the study material and things.
Yeah, Miss Patro has asked, is study material sufficient? I think first of all, you need to go to the study material. Then if you have time, after thoroughly going through the study material once, twice or thrice till the time you have a command over the substantive and the procedural aspect, then you have the revision test paper, mock test paper, suggested answers to practice more. Mukta has asked that, ma'am, these amendments are already part of our study material, or we have to wait for RTP that includes amendment generally. No, Mukta, you need not wait till RTP is given. These study materials are updated up to 30th April 21, and all the amendments made thereafter, that is after from 1st May 21 till 30th April 22, which is the cutoff date, will be covered in the statutory updates, and there will be web hosted very shortly. Ronak has said, thank you, ma'am, for briefing. Thanks, Deepak. I hope that you have understood the things and you will go in the right direction. Dilip has said, is case scenario part of MCQ? Yes, Dilip. There will be an integrated case scenario and 2 independent case scenarios, and they will be the part of MCQ's division part 1. Then Mukta, I have already answered your query. Hari Priya has asked, ma'am, for the MCQs, how many marks will be from income tax and GST? Total 30 marks are dedicated for MCQ division in a 100 marks paper. And indirect taxes being a 40 marks paper, so 30% of 40 marks, that is 12 marks MCQs will be from indirect taxes. Prachi has asked, ma'am, how to make notes. Please tell me, Prachi, basically the summary is given for the each and every chapter of the GST study material. There are the 10 chapters, returns is the last chapter, and we have given summary of each and every chapter. Still, when I will advise you personally that when you will go through the chapter now, and after listening to these notes, you will go through the chapter, you may, while studying, take a pen in your hand. Even now, when we study, even now when we, prepare the study materials and everything, at this level also I have a practice of, having pen in my hand and marking the important points. So just inculcate this habit. I'm telling you, it will help you a lot in the long run. Just mark the important points, tricky points which you feel is important. You can make, you can add in your summary. Then the day before examination, it will be really beneficial for you. So I hope, Deepak, that all the queries have been resolved. And
yeah, one question which was very relevant was, and I generally tell.
Mr. Ankita has asked, is it required to learn section at intermediate level? No, Ankita, at intermediate level. No, Ankita, at intermediate level, we don't expect the students to memorize the section number. But yes, your knowledge of law should be, very clear. You basically, let's say, one thing to note from examination point of view is that if it's always better not to quote a section number than to misquote it, right? So don't rush after that. We need to, memorize the section number. Your understanding, your application-based skills should be proper. And verbatim language is also not expected from you that you need to write word-to-word language of the law. Your understanding should be clear. So Pooja has asked, said, thank you, ma'am, for giving us insights into the new paper. We are going to learn, ma'am. MCQ will be case-based or just one-liner question. MCQs can be comprehension and knowledge-based as well as analysis and application-based. And they will be integrated case scenarios as well as independent case scenarios. We have to run sections as it is are in exam. We can write them own that we can understand. Yes, you can write in your own language, Mr. Ankit Gupta. So I hope all the queries have been resolved by now. So let's hand it over to CA Deepak. He will take you to the chapter 1 introduction. And thank you, and all the best. Keep learning, and keep studying, and then obviously future will be bright, and you will come out with the flying colors. Okay, thank you, Deepak.
Come on. Mr. Ram, can you just confirm if the screen is visible? अभी साइड में अगर मैं अभी आपको कोई दूसरा स्क्रीन दिख रहा है या वही स्क्रीन दिख रहा है? दूसरा है, ओके, बिकॉज मैंने प्रेजेंटर व्यू दिखाया है. अभी कौन सा स्क्रीन दिख रहा है आपको? स्क्रीन नहीं है. अब कौन सा स्क्रीन दिख रहा है? पीपीटी. ओके, अभी भी दिख रहा है ना, वही स्क्रीन है. कि ओके. ओके, थैंक यू. हाँ, स्लाइड मोड ही है. अभी स्लाइड में आ रहा है. ओके, ठीक है, फाइन सर. ओके, थैंक यू सर. सो तो फिर एक और सिस्टम लेना पड़ेगा फॉर क्वेश्चन आंसर्स के लिए, क्योंकि क्वेश्चंस इसमें नहीं आ पाएंगे. हाँ सर, ब्रेक डाल दीजिए ताकि सेट कर सकें. Okay. Sorry, friends. Sorry for the technical glitch. We were just trying to see how we could see your questions and we could answer them in parallel with the classes. So, to start with the introduction, Ms. Swati Agarwal is part of the Board of Studies at the CA Institute itself. So she knows how things work out, what all the intricacies that happens, and what things are relevant for you as students. Myself, I am Deepak Jain. I am a chartered accountant and a company secretary. I practice in Bangalore. I have experience of 12 years, and I am also a faculty with the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India for GST. So the institute, when the GST was introduced, before the GST was introduced, there were a lot of study circles which were happening, and they encouraged young chartered accountants to come forth and become faculties, right? Because it was a budding topic in 2017 when it started. The waves started coming in from 2016 itself, wherein we have the draft GST laws. We had so many versions of the drafts which got amended. There were professionals across who were reading through that. So at that time, the institute wanted some faculty members so that this being a new law could be addressed to all the members. I was one of them who got selected, and that's how my interest in GST is there. Even before GST, I had interest in the indirect tax laws, that is the service tax, customs, and central excise laws. And with that interest, I have got interested in the GST, and I've taken a lot of sessions on GST for the students. And I've taken before the students, I had taken for a lot of members at various states in South India. And for students, I would say this is a good thing that it's come up as a matter of COVID, I would say. Once the COVID started, the institute started this practice of having a kind of online sessions, right? Because otherwise the classes were all held offline at each branch level. So at a consolidated India level, having this kind of classes is really helpful. And you guys are lucky that you are able to access to wonderful lectures from the comfort of your home or any place where you can access this. These classes are really helpful. Let me tell you from the feedback what we have been given for the last 2 to 3 sessions. Now the duration of the classes is increased in terms of topic allocation. Each topic can be covered in more than one session. Like you could see the chart, the schedule which has been given. For introduction, you have 2 classes. For supply, you have 2 classes. So each classes can be detailed, can be explained in detail instead of hurrying up. That's a really good thing that we are able to maximize this by giving you more number of classes. Right. So that was my introduction, and I have basically a chartered accountant, and I help clients in doing GST audits, GST compliances, GST assessments, and also at the litigation stage, we have started entering there. So my experiences will also speak out when I take your classes for you. So practical examples and practical insights will also be given to you, because my intention is not only to take the book and make you read or make you just deliberate what is there in the book. I will make you take the book and understand from a practical perspective, because just theoretical is good from one aspect, but when you get case studies, when you see the live practical scenarios in the outside world, you'll have to be confident over there. That's the reason my intention here is to give you a practical touch of whatever topics I will discuss, and also to most important is to keep the concepts, make you understand the concepts, because theoretical things you can read it, but how to make that reading understandable is by teaching you the concepts. So my intention here is to teach you the concepts completely and make you thoroughly understand the concepts, so that any kind of twisted, any kind of confusing question also it comes, whatever tough question also comes, you are confident to answer it. You may forget it, that's a different thing based on your revision. So most of the important aspect is how well you revise. Just reading once, you feel that you are understood, but once the practical question comes, we tend to forget it. So more and more revisions, more and more working of the sums will help you. I remember some student of my previous batch, they've been working out after my classes, and they are able to reach out to me and ask questions. I'll give you a scenario. We were just learning on the exemptions platform, right? So exemptions are given to whom and things like that. So we are talking about exemption given to healthcare professional. So one student went to hospital and she asked for the bill, they didn't give. So immediately she asked me a question, can they do so? Whether they can, should they charge GST? Now after the hospital, she had some food in the hospital, whether that restaurant service is exempt or not exempt. Again, some questions strike to her. So there are a lot of things which are practical. So GST law is a practical law. It's not a theoretical law. We have theory portion in it, but each theory helps you to understand and link the practical aspect of it. Okay. So understand and get into the study mode of this subject from a practical perspective, because any theoretical thing which you learn, which you understand, will have a practical implication in now or the near future. It could be think of this, or it could be from a business perspective also. So when you're traveling, okay, and if you're traveling for business purpose, then whether the travel expenses is beneficial for you or no. Okay, from a client perspective, how he can save taxes, how he can maximize his input tax credit. Those things are very relevant. So if you concentrate here, this will not only help for your exams, but it will help you in your career also in your future. Okay, so with that introduction, let us get into the topics. Is there any link between direct and indirect tax? I mean, as a student, even when I have not yet fully covered income tax, can I start with GST? Yes, you can start, because both are independent subjects and independent chapters. Even if you have not started with direct tax, you can start with GST law, no problem at all. I will not teach entire syllabus of GST. I will teach you till input tax credit. The substantial part of the GST law will be taught by me, and there'll be another faculty for chapters after input tax credit. Great. So we'll understand what is taxation first. Why should taxation be there? Is it okay if I talk sometimes in Hindi, or are there students who don't understand Hindi? Please give your response so that I know, and then I can talk in Hindi if required. Is it too much that if I talk too much, I'll not use completely Hindi, because this has to be taught in English. But sometimes if I use Hindi for the comfort of students to understand, is it fine or no? What notes will you use? Nikita, I will use the study material which is given by the institute itself. So whatever is the study material given by the institute, I will use only that, so that both of us use the same book. You can use a reference number. You can tell this example, what is given, I didn't understand. I can use the same thing. And this classes are conducted by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. That's the reason we will use the books published by the ICAI itself. And trust me, there's a drastic change in the study material. When we used to study the material, it was not in a readable mode, but now they have pictures and things like that in the PDF formats, which is all colorful as well. So when you see it itself, you feel like reading it, and they have given things in a good representation manner. So you should use it. So I will also use CA study material itself. ग्रेट. तो सबको हिंदी पसंद है, और हिंदी में जहां पर भी एग्जाम्पल्स दे सकता हूं मैं वहां पे वो एग्जाम्पल्स दे दूंगा, ताकि हमको समझ में आ जाए. The intention is only वही कि हमको समझ में आ जाए, but it could be any language. मैं कन्नड़ा में भी बात कर सकता हूँ, but unfortunately not everybody will be familiar with Kannada. So whatever is comfortable, we will use that language. Okay. So what is taxation basically, and why should we be paid? Are we happy to pay taxation? No. Whenever you tell, or whenever I tell you, come on, you have to pay taxes, will you be ready to pay? No, you'll not be ready to pay, because why should I pay? Is the basic notion what we have. But if we understand why taxation is there in any country, then our perspective will definitely change. Okay. So we have to treat this as a complete macro level. We'll have to see that when we do something, we get income, right? When we work or when we do our articleship also, we get stipend, right? There is something we get in return for what we do. So we get something and then we utilize for our consumption, right? It could be for your personal things. You go for a movie. Students, you are all students, so you should be going for movies. You should be going outside. Might be going out with friends. You might be going for trips, right? All of this are your expenses. You have income. That's where you spend these expenses, right? Now, where are we spending this? We are spending, say, for a trip. So when we go for a trip, how do we go? Say we have gone by a public transport, right? How does the public transport go? We have used a bus. Now, how does the bus go? It goes on the road. Now, who has provided this road? If the road was not fine, you wouldn't have gone to the destination itself. Suppose I want to go to Lonavala. Now, if I have to go to Lonavala, suppose the government doesn't construct road. There is only rocks over there. There is a ghat section and only few people who have their own accommodation can go because there is no roads. So will it be a pleasant place for you to go? Of course not. You wouldn't like to go on a bumpy road in that place because it's such a wonderful place to be on a hill station. But if there is no roads, will anybody go over there? They will not go. Why? Because the mode of transportation is not correct. It is not comfortable. So we wouldn't go there. So that's how somebody has to construct the road. Will there be a private person who will construct? There can be a private agencies who will construct it, but they will have their own charges, right? They will start collecting entry fees for getting into Lonavala itself. Then that become costlier. Still, I will not go because I want to go and relax and I don't want to spend a lot of money over there. So I will not go there then. So the government steps in and says, okay, we are a country and we will have public expenditure, right? We are a welfare state. What is the preamble of the constitution says that we, a country, what is India? India is a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, right? So when we elect somebody, so as the base is set in the constitution, wherein the constitution says that India is like this. India is a union of states and it consists of these many states and union territories. So, and it is headed by the government. Now, it is the responsibility of the government to provide you with these roads and other basic facilities, right? So how will the government provide you this? If they keep collecting charges for entry like a private entity will do, then we will feel the pinch, right? We will not go over there because it is directly affecting us. So what government has said is we will levy something called as taxes. You pay the taxes and from the taxes, what is being collected, we will provide you with all the amenities, right? The role of the government is of a welfare state. It is a welfare state. It is a state here doesn't mean the local states. It means the whole country, the government. Okay. The government is called a state. The whole country is called a state. So India is a welfare state wherein the government is responsible for the welfare and well-being of the citizens of the country. So they will provide welfare. So they will have to do welfare. They will have to give pensions. They'll have to give a lot of facilities to the elderly people, right? But not to such extent that they keep giving pensions and the company goes into a negative mode like how Sri Lanka has gone, right? So it shouldn't be so much that so much pension is given that the country is becoming bankrupt. They'll have to balance it, right? That's where they collect taxes. So the basic facilities like the road for your trip is provided by the government. All those facilities, all those infrastructure, all those defense is all bundled and called as public expenditure. all expenditures of development of the infrastructure. Okay, roads is also one of the infrastructures. Airports are infrastructures. All those infrastructures and amenities given by the government is called as public expenditure. So for these public expenditure, they just can't keep doing this expenditure without having sufficient amounts in their kitty. This sufficient amount of kitty is pulled in by the taxation, by the taxes what we pay. So हम जो tax लगाते थे, तो पहले लगान था, फिर उसके दूसरे नाम आए थे, lot of things came in, बाद में टैक्स बनाया. नाउ टैक्स जब हमारे दिमाग में आता है तो पहले क्या सोचते हैं? इनकम टैक्स. तो इनकम टैक्स एक तरह का टैक्सेस हो गया, लेकिन जब भी हम कुछ भी खर्चा करते हैं, कुछ भी खरीदते हैं, तब भी हम टैक्स भरते हैं. सो वी स्पेंड लॉट ऑफ मनी एंड वी पे लॉट ऑफ टैक्सेस so that we don't feel the pinch. Because you want to eat something, you want to eat a biscuit. Government doesn't want to come in between you and your biscuit. They tell you eat your biscuit. बस प्राइसिंग जो है उसमें से हमको कुछ थोड़ा दे दो, हम आपसे बिस्किट नहीं मांगेंगे, बिस्किट के रेट में हमारा टैक्सेस दे दो, ताकि आई डोंट हैव टू टैक्स यू अगेन ऑन अ डिफरेंट एस्पेक्ट. Okay, so when you buy anything for consumption, tax is embedded in that, so they will take some amount from that itself. Okay, so it is a concept of indirect tax. When I go to the next slide, we'll discuss what is direct tax and indirect tax. So taxation are collected in various modes. One is direct taxes, another is indirect taxes. And what else? Why is taxation required? For the fiscal policy to stimulate economic growth, right? The government can't be stable, can't be rigid, can't be at one place. They have to be dynamic. They have to keep adopting to newer things. Why? For the economic growth, right? Now, we have seen that we have come from a stage of just having railways to having modern metro trains, right? Why? Because these are the economic growths. These are economic indications which shows that the country is growing. So for all the spending on the metro projects, they will need to have sufficient taxes in their kitty. That's the reason taxation is necessary. So whenever we pay taxes, we shouldn't feel that, oh, I paid the taxes. Yaar, aaj mere haathon se 5 lakh rupees tax nikal gaye. Correct? Whenever we come to the taxation season and when we tell the clients to pay, they will generally say, why should I pay taxes? Kyun tax bharu main? Mujhe kya mil raha hai? Bas सिर्फ पॉलिटिशियन और करप्शन के नाम पे पैसे जा रहे हैं. दैट इज व्हेन दे रिमेंबर व्हेन वी टेल देम टू पे टैक्सेस, बट थ्रू आउट द ईयर व्हेन दे गो एंड bribe and they do corruption, that doesn't strike them. But when we tell somebody to pay something from their pocket, these crime things happen. I agree that yes, there are some wrong things in the system. There are ways to deal with it separately, but we shouldn't be a part of it and pay less taxes. So we shouldn't be tax evaders. We should be tax planners. So you know the difference between tax planning and tax evasion, right? Tax planning is when we do things in a legal manner. जब आपको कुछ exemption दिया है, आप उसका exemption use कीजिए. Tax planning कीजिए और फिर tax भरिए. Unlike tax evasion, जब आप tax ही नहीं भरना चाहते हो और गोलमाल करना चाहते हो, that is tax evasion. So tax evasion is an incorrect and unlawful thing. Tax planning is legal and a lawful thing. GST is very much required now, so that you know when you step into your articleship or when you step into your professional life, you're aware with the present taxation. That's the reason GST is part of it. There are some issues with my voice. Ramji, voice में कुछ problem आ रहा है क्या? Few students. ठीक है. Okay, so Pooja and others who have said that there is a problem in the voice, please try to refresh so that everybody is on the same page and others are clear with my voice. No problem. Lavanya, your question: what was the need to introduce GST? Because government gets revenue also from income tax, and that also is sufficient, right? Yes, your question is very valid. I'll tell you why GST is required. We'll get into direct tax and indirect tax. That time I'll tell you. Now, what is the definition of tax? First of all, what is in your head? That is tax. That is, tax is a burden. Yes, they've said tax is a burden. What kind of a burden? It's a pecuniary burden, which means it involves money, wherein you have to pay something in money for whatever you have earned. So whenever you earn, whenever you get any income, either in cash or in kind, still you need to pay taxes on that. So taxation has to be, it's a pecuniary burden. For any income, whatever you have to pay the taxation of that. Okay, so tax is a burden, which is a pecuniary burden. Definition of tax is, it's a pecuniary burden which is laid upon individuals and landowners to support the government, a payment which is exacted by legislative authority. Right? It's a pecuniary burden laid upon individuals and landowners. That's a general definition. So it doesn't corporates get covered. Individuals here, it's a broad sense. Here they mean to say wherein everybody has to pay taxes by individuals and landowners to support the government, and it's a payment exacted by legislative authority, which means there has to be an authority. Only if they have authority to collect, then they can collect. Without authority, they cannot collect. What do you mean by legislative authority? Means legislative power. The constitution should give power to the central government to collect customs duty. The constitution should give powers to the state government to collect stamp duty. The constitution should give power to the states to collect value added tax. So how does the power is given? It's given through the mother deed, mother document, which is the Constitution of India. जब अपने constitution में लिखा है कि किसको क्या मिलेगा, इसके लिए अलग से लिस्ट बनाई गई है, सेंटर के लिए अलग से लिस्ट बनाई गई है, और कुछ चीजें हैं जो दोनों को मिलकर लिस्ट 1 is called center list, list 2 is called state list. अपने 7th schedule, there's a constitution में schedules है, उसमें 7th schedule में 3 लिस्ट दी गई है. First list is the center list, second list is a state list, and third list is a concurrent list. अगर कुछ आइटम इन तीनों के अंदर है तभी वो रेस्पेक्टिव स्टेट टैक्स कर सकते हैं. अगर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बोलता है कि एग्रीकल्चर टैक्स है या स्टैम्प ड्यूटी की टैक्स लिस्ट 2 में है, तभी स्टेट्स उसको कलेक्ट कर सकते हैं. सो इट हैज बीन मेंशन्ड ऑन द स्पेसिफिक लिस्ट और इट इज स्पेसिफाइड इन द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन इटसेल्फ, देन इटसेल्फ देयर इज अ लेजिस्लेटिव अथॉरिटी, राइट? So how is GST there? GST को थोड़ा घुमा फिरा कर लिखा है, because it is not directly mentioned that it is GST is the power given to the center and state by these lists. नहीं, उसका तोड़ निकाल के when we read the constitution we'll see that they have made an amendment in the constitution so that GST has dual power both by the center and the state. Income tax अभी किसके हाथ में है? Center के हाथ में है, not with the states. So some taxation are there with the center, some taxations are there with the states, but GST is in a separate arena wherein they amended the constitution to give power to both center and state to levy this GST, right? So we're talking about taxation. It's a pecuniary burden which is laid upon individuals and landowners to support the government, and it's a payment which is exacted by legislative authority. It is not a voluntary payment or donation, but it is an enforced contribution. Yes, it is not that. I'll give an example, a story which just clicked me now. There was a village wherein they said that we are going to have some kind of a system similar to taxation, wherein every villager has to come and pour a glass of water into a bowl which is kept in the center of the village. Okay? तो एक बड़ी कढ़ाई जो बोलते हैं या बड़ी मेटल पीस रख दिया गया गांव के बीचों बीच और सबको बोल दिया गया कि इसमें सबको एक एक ग्लास दूध डालना है, राइट? तो सब लोग आके दूध डालेंगे, उससे जो भी खर्चा, वो बेसिकली वहां पे कुछ कमी हो गई थी तो इसलिए सबके कंट्रीब्यूशन लेके ये डिसाइड किया गया कि सबको एक एक ग्लास दूध डालना है. वो दूध से किसी गाय वगैरह को देंगे। तो बेसिकली गाय से निकल रहा है दूध, सो वहां के जानवरों के लिए दूध की कमी होगी, तो सबको दूध लेके आना पड़ेगा। तो गांव वालों ने विचार किया, ठीक है ये अच्छी बात है, सब लोग साथ में कंट्रीब्यूट करेंगे, राइट, सब लोग एक मैं भी करूंगा, वो भी करेगा, सब करेंगे, तो इसकी जो भी जानवरों का चारा है वो निकल जाएगा इससे। तो डिसाइड हो गया। जब अगले दिन आया, सबको बोल दिया ये कल लेके आ जाना। जब रात में सब सो रहे थे, सबके दिमाग में ये ख्याल आया कि मैं तो दूध डाल दूंगा, ठीक है, सब लोग दूध डाल देंगे, लेकिन सब दूध डालेंगे और मैं दूध की जगह पानी डाल दूं तो क्या फर्क पड़ेगा? इतना सारा दूध में मेरी एक गिलास पानी, दूध और पानी मिल जाएगा, किसी को पता भी नहीं चलेगा, राइट। तो फिर मैं पानी लेके जाता हूँ। ये एक आदमी के दिमाग में ख्याल आया, फिर दूसरे के दिमाग में भी यही ख्याल आया, सब गांव वालों के दिमाग में यही ख्याल आया कि हर कोई दूध डालेगा, हर कोई दूध डालेगा, तो फिर मैं पानी डाल देता हूँ, क्या फर्क पड़ता है। तो लाया गया अगले दिन सब लोग उस जगह पे गए जहां पे दूध डालना है, सब लोग डाल रहे। जब डालेंगे तब किसी को डिस्क्लोज नहीं किया, क्योंकि उनको बस डाल के आना है, और कढ़ाई भी किसी को दिखाई नहीं दी। सब लोग डाल के आ गए। जब सब लोग आए तब बाहर खोल के देखा तो अंदर किसी ने दूध नहीं डाला, सबने सिर्फ पानी इकट्ठा किया, क्योंकि हर कोई ये सोचता था कि मैं दूध डालूंगा, क्यों मैं डालूं, मैं पानी डाल दूंगा, सब लोग दूध डाल रहे, मैं पानी डाल देता हूं। ठीक है, समझ में आया आपको? जब ये कोई सोचता है कि दूसरा कर देगा और मैं नहीं करूंगा, तब क्या होता है, वो वॉलेंट्री नहीं कर रहा है, उसको इन्फोर्स करना पड़ रहा है, राइट। तो टैक्सेशन भी ऐसा ही है। मैं क्यों टैक्स भरूं? अंबानी और दूसरे लोग हैं जो भरेंगे, मैं क्यों भरूं? वो लोग इतने बड़े बड़े लोग हैं, ऑल दिस बिग कंपनीज विल पे टैक्सेस, व्हाई शुड आई पे टैक्सेस, राइट। तो ये वॉलेंट्री सिस्टम अगर होगा तो कोई टैक्स नहीं भरेगा। वॉलेंट्री बोलेंगे सबको आके भरो, मान लेंगे, लेकिन पानी डालेंगे, दूध नहीं डालेंगे। तो इसीलिए ये टैक्सेशन जो है ये वॉलेंट्री पेमेंट नहीं है, इट्स एन एनफोर्स कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन, फोर्स करना पड़ेगा। हाउ इज इट एनफोर्स? थ्रू अ लेजिस्लेटिव अथॉरिटी, एक लेजिस्लेटिव पावर होगा, और वहां पे गवर्नमेंट को स्पेशल पावर्स होगा कि अगर जो कोई टैक्सेस नहीं देगा, what they can do, what are the ways to collect the taxes. जब ये strong power होगा, and this is the way of how to enforce a collection of taxes, that is when taxes will be collected, and it is exacted pursuant to a legislative authority, which means legislative power रहेगा तभी ये taxation collect किया जा सकता है। So taxation is not a voluntary payment or donation, it's an enforced contribution which is exacted pursuant to legislative authority. Enforce मतलब ऐसा नहीं कि सभी को पकड़ के डंडा मारो और निकालो, नहीं। लॉ बना दिया गया है, लॉ में बोल दिया है कि जो कोई सप्लाई करेगा, जो कोई इनकम अर्न करेगा, उसको इनकम टैक्स पे करना पड़ेगा, राइट। दैट इज मीनिंग ऑफ एनफोर्स्ड, कि सबको लॉ में लिख दिया गया है, एंड लॉ इज द रूल ऑफ द लैंड। Nobody can tell I didn't read the Income Tax Act, so I will not pay taxes. Ignorance of law is not an excuse. There are a lot of cases which said that ignorance of law is not an excuse. So you cannot say that I don't know the law. Any law which is passed by the Constitution is passed by the members. The members are selected by you. A democracy system is like that, wherein you have elected your members. Then when the members pass it, it means they have thought about you and then they have passed it. Okay, so law is passed by the Constitution, by the legislative assembly and state assemblies, right? Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha दोनों जगह पे पास होता है. So it's an enforced contribution by passing in the legislative assemblies and exacted pursuant to a legislative authority. Is GST part of concurrent list? No, GST is not part of the concurrent list. When I explained, yes, that there are some laws which both state and center has to pass it, but GST is not part of that list because the dominance of the concurrent list goes to the center. That's the reason they didn't want to put that exact more power to the center, so they didn't put it in the concurrent list as well. They have amended and put it in a separate section itself, separate article of the Constitution. Right. So even if when payment is not voluntary, even when it is forced, still people try to evade. Yes, that is how the human tendency is to avoid taxation. But that doesn't mean that the government should not enforce. They will still enforce. So if it is voluntary, nobody will pay. But if it is compulsory, then at least some people will pay. Right. When we see the statistics of the income tax payers and the population, there's so much of variance. Right. So there is a lot of variance, but still government is trying to increase the tax base and bring a lot of people into it. And the example what I was giving in Hindi was, there was a well, there was a big container wherein the village decided that everybody will contribute a glass of milk into it. For people who didn't understand in Hindi, there was a big kind of vessel which was kept in the village, saying that we will use it for the welfare of animals. So let everybody contribute a glass of milk into it every day. So when the first day itself, everybody decided, in the night before the day came in, everybody thought, one person thought that everybody will contribute the milk. I will just contribute a glass of water. The milk and the water will just mix up and nobody can differentiate from it. So I will contribute a glass of water. That's how everybody thought. And when they came to the place and they put their glass into it, everybody has poured whatever they bought. When they opened it up, they were shocked to see that nobody had bought a milk. Everybody had bought a glass of water itself, and the vessel was full of water, which means that anything which is to be done voluntary will find the escape route. That's the reason there has to be a compulsion. There has to be an enforced thing, is what I was trying to say. Okay. So we know that taxation is not a voluntary payment or donation. It's an enforced contribution exacted pursuant to legislative authority. Now, what is the basic tax system in India? We have direct tax, we have indirect tax, and some cases we have tax on tax. Okay. Now, what are ways of direct taxes? It's basically income tax. Corporate tax is also income tax, but taxes paid by the corporates is called as corporate tax. Income tax is paid by individuals. Then we have agricultural tax also. What is this agricultural tax? On your agricultural thing, you pay taxes. So indirectly in your indirect tax, when you read it now or in the later final terms, you'll see that when you have an agricultural income, it is exempted, but still it is indirectly taxed through a mode of separate calculation. So direct tax, we have three modes: income tax, agriculture tax, and corporate tax. Indirect tax, we have only two presently, because all the other indirect taxes have been subsumed into GST. Okay, so all the indirect taxes have been subsumed into GST, and one more indirect tax still applicable is called as customs duty. What is customs duty? It's a duty which is levied when any goods are imported into the country. So when any goods are imported in a country, we pay customs duty. That still continues, but all other taxes, that is the service tax, central excise, VAT, these are the main three taxes which have got subsumed into GST. Right? Somebody is asking, sir, why is GST required when we have direct tax? GST is not a new tax. It is a replacement of the existing taxation system. Okay, so don't think that GST is a new tax. Before this, there was no GST. There was no GST term, but similar to GST, there were multiple taxes which were being collected. Like when I used to buy I'll give an example. When I used to buy, say, a question of biscuit items. When I bought a biscuit, I used to pay taxes indirectly to the seller. I would have paid state VAT, but that person who would have bought from another person, I'll show you the example also, that when he used to buy from somebody, that person would have charged him central excise duty and VAT. Now, when that person would have bought something from the manufacturer would have charged him the excise duty, VAT, and GST if it is an interstate supply. Okay, so there were various taxes which were being levied at various legs. And if that person would have imported, he would have paid customs duty also. So these indirect taxation system is applicable since ages in India, even before direct tax was there. Okay, so all these taxes were levied through different taxes. All those things have been consolidated, and the burden is reduced. And the reason for getting GST is that tax on tax, one tax over other tax has to be reduced. That's the reason GST was brought in, and to reduce the consumption tax, the tax which the end consumer pays, that tax has to be reduced. That's why this GST system was brought into India. Clear? Then we have tax on tax still prevalent through the mode of surcharge and cess. Why? That is still considered continuing because government needs additional revenue for certain special purpose. Like we have a surcharge and cess on income tax. When we pay tax on that, we calculate the surcharge again. So the tax on tax still applies for specific reasons. But basically, broadly, we have three modes of taxation. One is direct tax, indirect tax, and third is tax on tax. I will see the question, but I will answer here. A very good question which is asked is, in GST also, do we have the base? Do we have the concept of previous year, assessment year, and things like that? No. Only in income tax, we have the concept of assessment year and previous year. In GST, it is the financial year itself. When we refer to any year, for the year 21-22, it means it is for the financial year 21-22. There is no assessment year and previous year concept in GST. It is all one financial year. Now, each country has its own tax system. Yes, each country has its own taxation system because each country's demographic needs, the employment needs, the food habits, everything, the culture is different. So each country has its own taxation system. Indian taxation system is this, other taxation system is different. But the principles would be same, that when anybody consumes something, they have to pay taxes. So GST tax itself is called as value added tax in some countries because it's a tax on value addition. GST is a goods and service tax, and GST is also a tax on the value addition itself. So value added tax or GST are different terms, but the basis is same, wherein when I do any consumption, when I sell something, I have to pay taxes on the value addition. So I pay tax only on the value addition. So indirect tax, the GST tax is a value added tax, which means I pay tax on the value addition. How is that value addition calculated? That's different way, but ultimately we pay tax on the value addition itself. Tax on tax is also for GST, yes, to not specifically in GST because we don't have surcharge or cess in GST. So tax on tax is applicable only in income tax, not under the GST. Mr. Bharat, I didn't understand your question. Is there any credit period on any exceptional cases? I didn't understand this. Can you please clear your question? Okay. Now, what is a direct tax and what is an indirect tax? We know the examples of direct tax and indirect tax. Now, how is it structured? Direct tax is the incidence of the tax which is borne directly. When I earn my salary, whatever is my salary earnings, on that I pay income tax. So whatever I earn, I pay. Similarly, when I run a business, I make sales, then I incur expenditure, net of it, I have profit. On this profit, I pay taxation. So if more the profit, more the taxes, less the profit, less tax. Incidence is directly borne by me. When I make profit, I pay tax. If I make loss, I don't pay tax, right? So incidence of tax is borne directly, not indirectly. Directly it is borne. Now compare this with indirect tax. The incidence of tax is shifted to another person. Okay, the incidence of tax is shifted to another person. When I am selling, I am a person who I am selling simple thing, a hand sanitizer. I am selling a hand sanitizer. Who is the person who is paying the tax? The person who is buying it. The incidence of tax is shifted to another person. Even though I will pay to the government, the burden is shifted to another person. So the burden is on one person. The person paying the tax to the government is different. So the incidence of tax is shifted. The liability is shifted, wherein I am made responsible to collect the taxes on whatever products I sell and collect it from the customer, but I have to pay it to the government because the government has found that the person who's selling will have control on it. So even though I am the consumer, okay, I will pay taxes to somebody and he will pay the taxes to the government. So incidence of tax is shifted to another person, which means that when I'm selling it, I am making a profit, right? But I don't pay tax on the product. I don't pay tax on the product what I'm selling. The tax is, even though it is my income, when I make sale, it is my income, right? So I pay income tax on this, that is direct tax. But when I sell and I have a margin, still I don't pay tax on that. The tax burden is shifted to another person. Clear with this? So incidence of tax is shifted to another person in an indirect tax system. Okay. Okay, so Bharat, your question was, can tax be paid on due basis or any rare cases, sir, or should it be paid on time? It should be paid on time. If it is not paid on time, then it has to be, if you pay late, then you have to pay it with interest, right? So there is no kind of installment option which has been given. So you have to pay the taxes on a periodic basis, which is monthly or quarterly, right? You have a monthly system and a quarterly system. So when the tax due date comes, you have to pay the taxes, and any delay, there's no extra time which is given. If you pay delay, then you have to pay it with interest. Is there any deadline to file GST return? Yes, there is deadline to file GST return. Like how you have a deadline for income tax returns, monthly GST returns, we have a deadline. The general deadline is considered as 20th. So by 20th, you have to pay your taxes. But pages QRMP, quarterly return payers, there is a different date. For composition payers, there's a different date. When you read the chapter of returns, you will get to know what are the returns, what kind of returns, and when the returns have to be filed. Pooja, your question is, we have seen that our tax rate is higher, but still we are not financially strong because there are a lot of people who are doing transactions, but they're not paying taxes to the government. The expenditure of the government is so huge. We are the second largest country in terms of the population, second largest populated country. So imagine the amount of expenditure which the government have to make, even though they don't make so much, with less amount also. And just imagine the amount of expenditure they have to make. They have to protect you. A lot of money goes into defense. Okay, most of the budget allocations will see goes to the defense. Why? To protect the country. But that is not to just encourage them. It is to protect us, right? So a lot of expenditure goes there. Lot of expenditure goes for public infrastructure. Lot of the expenditure goes for the main thing of giving you subsidies and things like that, right? So all of those expenditure, what goes is so huge that the taxation is not in par. Even though the rate of tax could be high, but not everybody pays it. Some people do escaping. We have seen a lot of cases wherein people have collected the taxes but not paid to the government. So all this pilferage, what happens? Because of that, we'll see even if the tax rate goes up, it is not sufficient. It is not sufficient because a lot of people are doing this misfeasance. Cess on thin goods and luxury items fall under taxes. Yes, cess is also there on some luxury goods and things. That is also indirect tax. But all the cess and what is collected through GST itself. So we have this compensation cess that is also collected through the GST mechanism itself. Can we say seller is benefited as he did not pay tax? No, we cannot say that in the example what I've given that seller is benefited. Seller is not benefited. He is a kind of agent who collects taxes on behalf of the government, right? If he collects it, fine. If it doesn't collect, still he has to pay. He cannot say that I sold something and I didn't collect the taxes, so I will not pay. Not done. The taxation under indirect tax is on the person who supplies the goods or who sells the goods. So if I am a seller and if I've forgotten to collect the taxation from the buyer, government can they say, okay, boss, you have forgotten, leave, I will not burden you. No, the government will say that I have given you the responsibility. You have the duty of collecting taxes on whatever products you sell. If the customer has paid you, or you have forgotten to collect it, or even whatever reasons he's not paid, once you make a sale, you have to pay the taxes. So the seller is not on a kind of special provision. He is still there to collect it. Only that instead of paying from his pocket, he has a right to collect it from the customer. He can collect it and pay to the government. Custom duty, can you please explain once? So when we, customs duty means duty on import, or it's also called as import duty. So all the taxation have been subsumed under GST, but customs duty still exists. So customs duty is a duty when you pay taxes on the importation. So when I import something, it will cross the customs frontier. This customs frontier, there are officers. When I import something, okay, first see, when you import something, you have to import through a ship or a aircraft. Now this has to go through clearance, customs clearance. That is called as filing of a bill of entry. Bill of entry is a document which will have details based on the invoices, whatever you import. It will give you details of what you have imported, what is the classification of the goods, what is the tax rate. So when you give the classification of the goods, based on that, the tax rate will come in, 10% or 15%. That is the customs duty which you pay. This is called as customs duty when I import. Another thing to note here is when I import something, I pay customs duty and I also pay GST on it. Why? I will tell you. When I import something, if I pay import duty, right, the product will become cheaper to me. So compared to a person who is manufacturing the same goods. So I bought a toy from Europe. That toy costed me 100 rupees. On that, I pay customs duty 115 rupees. The same toy, when somebody is manufacturing in India, the cost for him is 120, and that person is also burdened with GST. When I buy from a local manufacturer, I have to pay GST. So when I import, why I should not pay GST? That's the reason, to keep both these importer and the local manufacturer in par. When I import something, customs duty and GST is also levied. So on my importation, customs duty plus GST, both of this is levied. Okay. So this is how indirect tax system works. Direct tax is also called as progressive in nature, because as and when my income increases, my profit increases, my tax increases. So when this increase, income increase, tax increase, so it is progressive in nature. But indirect tax, it is regressive. In spite of my income, whatever, even if I'm rich, I pay same indirect tax. A person who's poor also pays the same indirect tax. The product what I purchase, say a biscuit example, when a biscuit packet of 1 rupee is purchased by a laborer, he also pays the same tax. When the same biscuit is purchased by a billionaire, he also pays the same tax. So that's why it's called regressive in nature. When in spite of my income increasing, I pay the same tax. Of course, there are some special categories that if the billionaire goes to a 5-star hotel, there the rate is different. So that's a different thing. But generally on common products, you'll see that the tax rate is same irrespective of the income. That's the reason it's called as regressive in nature, not progressive in nature. Because they didn't want to give a special rate for everybody who bought it and confuse it. So they embedded the taxes on the FMCG products on the sale price itself, saying that this is the rate. Whoever buys it, you buy it. But if there are luxury items, then the rate is different. So that's a different aspect. But on the same product, different people buys, still they pay the same tax. So that's why it is regressive in nature. Direct tax examples are income tax, and indirect tax example are GST and customs duty. How government income from tax through the budget? What is transparent, how the income is coming and how the expenditure is going on through the budget. So if you read through the budget, not just hear the budget, if you go through the budget papers, you'll see that a detailed expenditure statement is given, saying that when the government has invested, what have they spent over. So a detailed economic survey is also given, and a detailed budget is given. There you will get to know where are the amounts being spent. I have a question. Shopkeeper who has turnover above 20 lakhs file GST. And what about that shopkeeper who don't file GST and sell grocery to us and also collect tax included in price of that good and not giving to the government, as he is not liable to file GST? So this is not a tax evasion. No, the government has said that up to 20 lakhs, we have a limit. So below 20 lakhs, you have a option of not registering under GST. But about 20 lakhs, any sales you do, you have to register under GST. Now, this person from whom you're buying groceries, you're buying biscuit itself from him, right? Now, is he collecting taxes? Yes, since it is MRP, taxes is included. Fine. He is not collecting taxes because he is not registered, so he cannot collect. So, what happens to him? He will pay taxes on indirectly. How does it work? A person who is registered, he will purchase from a wholesaler, he will pay taxes on that, and when he sells that biscuit to you, you pay taxes to him. So when he sells it, he collects taxes, and when he buys, he pays taxes. He will net this off and pay the net tax to the government. Okay, since he's registered, he will net this off. He'll reduce the tax on the sale minus the tax on purchases what he paid and pay the balance to the government since he's registered. Okay, compare that with the unregistered person. He buys something and he sells to you. When he buys something, he pays taxes. When he sells, he also collects taxes. But this netting off will not happen because he's not registered. So whatever he pays to the wholesaler, that is the tax which he is paid to the government. Okay, so he does not have to pay further because this chain for small people, it has to stop, right? Because if everybody gets registered for small things also, then every managing these people will become difficult. So they've set a limit saying that up to 20 lakhs and 40 lakhs, any transactions what you're doing, you don't have to register. So up to that limit, they don't register, but this is not tax evasion. Non-registering is legally said that up to 20 lakhs, you don't have to register. So you're rightly not registered. You don't want to register. And the government also is saying don't register. So you are paying the taxes, but you're not claiming the credit. So you are at a loss. But that's fine because you're a small dealer and you don't want to get into the complication of filing returns and other things under GST. So it is not evasion. This is kind of exemption, special case which is given. I hope you understood, Jayendra Kumar. If you have doubts, please ask me. How customs duty is an indirect tax? When I import, okay, I pay taxes. But is it my income? It's my expenditure. On expenditure, I pay taxes. This is an indirect tax. It should be an income for me, for which I pay something. So then it becomes direct tax. But on my expenditure, I'm paying. That's why it's an indirect tax. Sometimes we hear that don't give the bill and we don't need to pay tax. So those are all tax evasion which happens. Why is the tax burden shifted? Tax has to be paid by the consumer, right? So that's the system of taxation what we have adopted called as consumption-based taxation system. So GST in India is not an origin-based taxation; it's a consumption-based taxation. So whoever consumes have to bear that burden of tax. So if a seller sells above MRP price, will it be treated as a tax for him? First of all, we have a restriction saying that you cannot sell goods above MRP. So you cannot sell any goods above the MRP itself. So MRP includes taxation. So you cannot sell anything about MRP. That's one thing because there is a restriction. When goods there are certain goods which need to have this MRP thing. Okay, how does that come from? That comes from Legal Metrology Act. Okay, so Legal and Metrology Act says that certain goods are there on which you have to affix MRP. There you have to affix MRP. The MRP is made in such a way that the pricing works on a different model, but the ultimate MRP, what you pay to the customer on the product, is paid by the customer. That includes the taxes. Now, what it could be 5%, 12%, 18%, but when the seller says it, he will do the calculation and will pay to the government. Okay, so MRP on that, above MRP, you cannot pay any tax. So we'll take a 10 minutes break here. It's close to 7:40. We'll assemble back at 7:50. Okay, thank you. So there are some questions which have come up. Let me answer those. Sir, अभी screen तो presentation का screen दिख रहा है ना? Okay, fine. So there are questions which have come up saying that what is the limit for registering for GST? Actually, there are two limits, and it depends on the state. Okay, so GST is not that easy that you ask one question and anybody will give you an answer so easily. That's the reason it is a part of the CA syllabus. For direct answers, nahi limit. Other ways why I was saying it is good is जितना कॉम्प्लिकेशंस रहेगा उतना लेमन के लिए उतना ही टफ रहेगा, इसीलिए प्रोफेशनल्स की वैल्यू बढ़ेगी. बिकॉज इफ इट इज सिंपल, जैसे दिन ब दिन सिंप्लीफिकेशन हो रहा है इनकम टैक्स रिटर्न्स का, सो इफ इट इज सिंप्लीफाइड देन नोबडी विल कम टू अ टैक्स कंसल्टेंट और चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट, सो दे विल ओनली फाइल इट. द वैल्यू ऑफ द सीए विल रिड्यूस, और योर वर्क, योर एफर्ट्स, whatever things you can do will no more be available to you, that will get reduced. So if anything gets complicated, you should feel happy that yes, people will come to me when they get more complicated things, and I am here to provide them a solution. Even though the things like registration is not a big thing, but same, I'm just giving you an example that things like this get complicated at various levels. So when it gets complicated at a higher level, then things on interpreting of the act becomes so very tough that you as a tax professional become so very expert in it and people will come to you. So it's a good sign that you don't get straightforward answers. Okay. Now registering, what is the limit? There are two limits, 20 lakhs and 40 lakhs, and decides on the states. Apart from special category states and special states, the limit is 20 lakhs is the limit for provision of services. And if you're a person who is dealing only in goods, then your limit is 40 lakhs. So there are two limits, 20 lakhs for services and 40 lakhs for goods generally. But each state-wise, some special category states are there. For them, the limit is different. General, 20 and 40. For whom it is not mandatory to get registration, those people are there under registration wherein they do turnover below this threshold limit. For them, GST is not mandatory, or the limit is more, but they are dealing only in exempted goods. For them also, GST is not mandatory. So there is a specific list which says that what are all the dealers for whom GST registration is not mandatory. Another question is why an import of goods dealer has to pay customs duty as well as IGST. Why two tax? I gave you the reason. To bring in par those people who are there under GST and doing manufacturing or doing any activity in India, those who are importing. तो फिर क्या होगा, अगर import के ऊपर आप GST नहीं लगाएंगे और उस product के ऊपर 18% का tax है, तो क्या होगा, आपको 18% कम में import करने का फायदा होगा और आप ज्यादा import करोगे. अब ज्यादा import देश के लिए अच्छा है या नहीं है? बिल्कुल अच्छा नहीं है. Too much of imports में क्या होता है, आपका फॉरेन एक्सचेंज बाहर जाता है. जितना फॉरेन एक्सचेंज बाहर जाता है उतना देश के लिए खतरा है. जितना फॉरेन एक्सचेंज आएगा, बैलेंस ऑफ ट्रेड, जब हम बजट पढ़ते हैं, जब हम इकोनॉमिक्स पढ़ते हैं, बैलेंस ऑफ ट्रेड हमारा पॉजिटिव रहना चाहिए, ना कि नेगेटिव. जब हम इंपोर्ट करते हैं तब हम पे इन फॉरेन करेंसी, तो आपका फॉरेन एक्सचेंज आउटफ्लो ज्यादा रहेगा, सो इट्स नॉट गुड फॉर योर इकोनॉमी. More and more foreign exchange inflow is good for the economy. That's the reason import को ज्यादा बढ़ावा नहीं दिया जाता है. इसीलिए import के ऊपर ड्यूटी लगती है और export के ऊपर ड्यूटी नहीं लगती, क्योंकि export को बढ़ावा मिलता है, exports को encouragement मिलता है, और exports most of the 99% products के ऊपर export ड्यूटी नहीं है, except some products जिसके ऊपर government doesn't want you to export, इसके ऊपर वो बैन लगती है. वरना export is always encouraged. इंपोर्ट के ऊपर इसलिए ड्यूटी लगती है ताकि जब लोकली कोई परचेस आइटम प्रोड्यूस मैन्युफैक्चर करता है या ट्रेडिंग करता है, उसको ये कंपटीशन नहीं रहना चाहिए. इट शुड बी इन पार. दैट्स रीजन व्हेन यू इंपोर्ट समथिंग, कस्टम्स ड्यूटी इज लेविड एंड जीएसटी इज आल्सो लेविड. पेट्रोल and diesel still have cascading effect. Yes, petrol, diesel, there are some other products इनके ऊपर cascading effect अभी भी है. I'll come to that list saying on which products tax on tax is still there, and there are 2 taxes also levied. So Ayush, you'll just remember this question, because we'll have some other products on which 2 taxes are still there. The limit of turnover is annually. Yes, the turnover is annually, but once you are registered, then you don't have to do it. Okay. I'm not changing slides. I'm still in the same slide. I'm not changing the slides yet. Okay. So incidence of tax, I'm just taking up the questions what the students have asked. So I'll read the question so that you will understand. Sir, the question is, are there limit of turnover annually, or it's only one time? So actually it is one time, because when we have to register, you'll have to see it annually. So if in the first year my turnover is 19 lakhs, I'm below 20 lakhs, I don't have to register. Next year my turnover is 19.5 lakhs, still I don't have to register. Third year I have to see whether my turnover is crossing 20 lakhs. If it is crossing 20 lakhs, then it crosses 20 lakhs. That time I have to take registration. Once I take registration, fine, my turnover is 21 lakhs. Next year my turnover is 25 lakhs. The year after that, my turnover fell down to 16 lakhs. So shouldn't I pay GST? No. The threshold limit is for registering. Once you register, आपका turnover 1 lakh पे भी गिर जाए, still you have to pay GST. Okay. The threshold limit, what I'm speaking of 20 lakhs and 40 lakhs, is to be seen every year till you register. Once you have registered, then you cannot tell that my turnover has gone down, so I don't have to pay GST. No. Once you are registered, you're always registered. Clear? Suppose a person purchase. Another question is, so suppose a person purchased a raw material on which he paid tax is more than the tax received on produced product. Whether he is get benefit of difference between tax on raw material and finished goods? Yes, Varshita, on your purchases, if you have paid more tax and if you have sold at a lower price, then whatever is the excess tax you paid to your vendor, that is called as a credit, which is available to you to offset in the next month. So every month you have to do this calculation of purchase on purchase, what is the tax, on sale, what is the tax on pay, and this one particular month on your purchases you have paid more taxes, then the extra tax, and you have reduced your tax on the output. If there is some extra tax, that tax can be used for your next month's sales. This is a chain which is called as an input tax credit, wherein when I purchase something, I pay GST. For that credit, if I have more, I can utilize it in my next month. Now take a reverse scenario. I purchase something, I have a credit of 100 rupees. When I sold something, I have to pay 150 rupees. So out of this 150, 100 rupees I will reduce, saying that this is the credit which I already have, and I will pay the balance 50 to the government through cash. Okay, that's how GST works. Sir, what are exempted goods? Please tell us some examples. Why you want now? Exempted goods are special goods like provisions, items which are there, like vegetables are there. There are so many items which are there which are exempted, but not relevant for your exams, because when you see that exclusion, that what Swati madam was explaining on that aspect of what is not covered in your exam, rate of GST on the goods is not there for you, so you don't have to know. But for your general understanding, essential products are exempted from GST. Okay, rice you have, basic staple foods what we have, fish, vegetables, on those things GST is exempted. So these limit of turnover annually that I've said, please distinguish between progressive in nature and regressive in nature. Progressive in nature means जब आप बढ़ते हो, आपकी कमाई बढ़ती है तो आपका टैक्स बढ़ता है. This is progressive. और एक है जब आपकी कमाई बढ़ती है लेकिन आपका टैक्स नहीं बढ़ता है, टैक्स घटता है, इसको रिग्रेसिव बोलते हैं. When your income increases, this increases, the tax increases, this is progressive. But when your income increases and your taxation reduces, this is the opposite effect of progressive, which is called as regressive, right? So when I was a person who was having income of 10,000, I was paying same GST. When I'm having income of 50,000, I'm paying the same GST. This is an example of regressive in nature. Here, Sushil. ಸ್ನೇಹ ಸುರೇಶ್ ಮಿಂಜಾಗಿ ನಿಮಗೋಸ್ಕರ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಅಷ್ಟು ಮಾತಾಡಕ್ ಬರಲ್ಲ ನನ್ನ ಕೈಯಲ್ಲಿ. ನಾನು ಮಾತಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಗಿರ್ತೀರಾ, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಅವಾಯ್ಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. What is cascading, sir? Cascading means tax on tax. I will explain that with an example. Understand what is cascading. Cascading means tax on tax is called as cascading. Okay, where one tax is not giving me the benefit, is not offsetting, is called as cascading effect. Understand this. I was a professional under service tax law. Okay, so service tax law, I used to pay taxes on my services, right? When I used to procure any services, I used to get that credit. That was the benefit which I used to get. But when I used to, that I could offset with my professional income. I used to offset and pay the taxes net of it. We know this, right? So whenever I collect something, I collect service tax. When somebody provides me service, he charges service tax. This service tax can be offset, right? Input tax credit was there under service tax also. So this offset was possible. But when I used to purchase any goods, like I am a chartered accountant, I have to do printing of my audit report. So how will I print? On a paper. Now, papers are goods. On the goods, the other person will charge me VAT. Can I offset that VAT tax on my service tax? No, I couldn't offset. So that used to add to my cost. So that is an example of a cascading effect, wherein the cascading effect was there, wherein some taxes which was levied to me was not eligible to claim as credit, is an example of cascading effect of taxes. Why taxes are charged on products which are harmful? Why not ban them? Ban them, very easy to tell, but it is not easy to implement it. So to give this negative impact, negative effect on them, so you can't more tax so that they will get discouraged to consume it. So they are called as sin goods, wherein you try to levy more taxes on them than normal goods. For import of goods, IGST is payable. Yes, correct, Mohammed. On import of goods, IGST is payable. If I have a turnover less than 20 lakhs, sir, can an entity register itself voluntarily? Yes, it can register voluntarily. So 20 lakhs is the limit, not a strict limit saying that once you cross 20 lakhs, only I will give you a registration certificate. Voluntary also, you are most welcome. Come to me, I will give you a registration certificate. Means GST authorities are saying this, that you come to me, they will give you a GST registration. Sir, in the situation of business having turnover less than 1 crore 50 lakhs and it is registered under GST, so tax would be paid or not? 1 crore 50 lakhs, right? 1 crore 50 lakhs. And it is registered under GST. Turnover is less than 1 crore 50 lakhs. 1 crore 50 lakhs, what is the limit? Nothing more than the 20 lakhs or 40 lakhs limit is there. If you have crossed, you have to register and you have to pay it. Is it exempt on clothes also? Yes, some clothes, but most of the textile products are now taxable. At least 5% tax is there. On fabric, taxes is not there. On some fabrics, still they started levying. On basic raw materials, taxation would be 0. So now I get to know one of Mart in my nearby not used to give a bill receipt. So he is actually receiving tax on goods and will claim for credit in return file as he paid more and received less as per documentation. Jayendra, yeah, if he's not registered, then he will pay more taxes to the government indirectly. Is GST applicable on exports? No, GST is not applicable on exports, Pooja. Exports are 0 rated only. Okay, now let's move into the slideshow. So we understood what is direct tax, indirect tax. Now, what are the taxes which got subsumed under GST? Very important to know. Earlier, excise duty was there, additional duty of excise was there, service tax, surcharge and cess. On surcharge and cess still there, but surcharge on cess on the excise duty and service tax is got embedded under CGST. What is this ADE? ADE is additional duty of excise. Excise duty was there, but on some products, extra charge was levied, which was called as additional duty of excise. Okay, all those have been subsumed and called as CGST, or which means C means central goods and service tax, S means state goods and service tax, IGST means interstate goods and service tax. Is it interstate goods and service tax? No, it is not interstate goods and service tax. It is integrated goods and service tax. Okay, wherein integration, it trying to integrate between the center and state. That's why it is called as a integrated goods and service tax. What were the central levies have got subsumed. So these taxes are not there. The excise duty, service tax, additional duty of excise, surcharge and cess, these are no more there. These have been subsumed under CGST. Then under SGST, what were the state levies which were levied by the state government? VAT was levied when you used to buy goods or something, VAT was charged. So VAT has got subsumed. Purchase tax, when you used to import something from another state or you used to buy something from another state, some states had this duty called as entry tax, or in other terms, it is called as purchase tax. Entry tax on when you used to purchase something, purchase tax was there. These taxes also have been subsumed. Luxury tax have been subsumed. Any surcharge and cess levied on this, that also has been subsumed under SGST. Okay. So these are the taxes which got subsumed under SGST. Then what are the taxes which have got subsumed under IGST? Central CVD, countervailing duty and special additional duty. Okay. So when I used to import, I used to pay before GST came into place customs duty plus countervailing duty and special additional duty. So those have been subsumed as integrated goods and service tax. To give you an understanding, I said when I import something now, I pay customs duty and GST. That time when GST was not there before July 2017, when I used to import, I had to pay customs duty and I had to pay CVD, which is countervailing duty equivalent to the excise duty. Same logic that when a person is manufacturing in India, he will pay customs duty, he will charge excise duty. So that excise duty also have to be import, pay level playing field on the import of goods. So I was paying countervailing duty equivalent to the excise duty, and that person was also paying sales tax equivalent to that. I used to pay special additional duty. So CVD and SAD were the taxes which were there on my imports that have been consumed. Then central sales tax. When I used to make any purchase between one state and another state, from one state to another state, there was not a VAT levied. VAT was levied for taxes within a state. When I used to do any transaction from one state to another state, I had to pay central sales tax. So CST was the tax which was payable, and all those taxes have got subsumed as IGST. Okay. Input. So we'll get back to questions. 15 lakhs. So the question is, sir, in the situation of business having turnover less than 15 lakhs and it is registered under GST, so tax would be paid or not? If it is registered under GST and the turnover is 15 lakhs, then it will continue to pay GST. Even if the turnover is fallen below, it will continue to pay GST. Input tax credit is output minus input. No, the output is your output, input is your input. So input is called as input tax credit. GST is payable on health services. Health services is under exemption category. So GST is not payable on health services. Whether SGST are collected directly by states or collected by center and then distributed to states. When I do a transaction within the state, I have to charge CGST and SGST. So the person pays, the registered person pays CGST and SGST. The SGST portion goes to the respective state. The CGST portion goes to the central government. That's how it works. Okay. There is a shop which don't give bill. Then what should be done? You have to ask them for the bill. If they don't give, then you have to insist that I will not pay you. I will not buy from you. But they are entitled to give a bill if they are registered under GST. Generally, there is a regulation that says that any person who is registered under GST has to put their GST number on their name board. If they have put that, it means they are registered. If they don't put, then it's a violation. What can we do as a consumer? We have to tell that it's not a right thing that you're registered under GST, you're collecting GST and not putting it. We have to inform them. Things don't work still, then you could inform a GST office saying that this is happening, so they can take action against it. But generally, we don't want to take tiff with a person whom you are dealing with. So it is the wrong thing which is happening. Just being silent about it is not correct. You have to escalate it to the appropriate authority. Can we say that cascading is similar to surcharge as both are tax on tax? Yeah, surcharge also you could say that it is tax cascading to some extent. Rafiq bhai, what is input tax? जब इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट चैप्टर में आएंगे तब मैं आपको डिटेल में बताता हूँ. बेसिकली ये समझना चाहिए आपको कि जब भी मैं कुछ परचेज करता हूँ, जब भी मैं कुछ भी खरीदारी करता हूँ जिसके ऊपर सामने वाले ने मुझे जीएसटी चार्ज किया है, तो उसका मैं बेनिफिट ले सकता हूं. उस बेनिफिट को इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट कहते हैं, क्योंकि अब उसने बिल के ऊपर जीएसटी चढ़ा दिया है. मैं उसको सिर्फ बिल का वैल्यू नहीं दूंगा, बिल प्लस टैक्स पूरा इनवॉइस का वैल्यू दूंगा. सो सिंस आई हैव पेड इट टू हिम, इट मींस आई हैव पेड टू द गवर्नमेंट, क्योंकि वो जो जीएसटी चार्ज करेगा अपने बिल में उसको गवर्नमेंट को जमा करना ही है. सो व्हेन आई बाई समथिंग फ्रॉम हिम, कि वो मुझे जीएसटी चार्ज क्रेडिट ले सकता हूं, जिसको हम इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट कहते हैं. ठीक है. A dealer get GST register for 20 lakh sales met, then GST payable for whole 20 lakh sale or more than 20 lakh supply. Tawfiq bhai, good question. Once you touch 20 lakhs, you have to register and then you have to start paying from 20 lakhs onwards. पुराना जो सेल हो गया है, उसके ऊपर जीएसटी चार्ज करने की जरूरत नहीं है. तो वंस यू क्रॉस द थ्रेशोल्ड, तो फिर आपको रजिस्टर 20 लाख के बाद जो भी आप सेल करते हो उसके ऊपर जीएसटी पे करना है. अगर मैंने 19 लाख पे ही रजिस्टर कर दिया है तो फिर मुझे 20 लाख तक वेट करना है नहीं. अब से आप जीएसटी चार्ज कीजिए, क्योंकि रजिस्टर करने के बाद फिर आपको चार्ज तो करना ही पड़ेगा. वंस यू हैव रजिस्टर्ड, व्हाटएवर सेल्स यू मेक आफ्टर रजिस्ट्रेशन, उसके ऊपर जीएसटी पे करना है. Is VAT still there on some goods? Yes, VAT is still there on petroleum products. VAT is still there on alcoholic liquor for human consumption. Excise duty is there, but petroleum products, VAT still continues. Whether GST is payable on vehicle hiring services provided to government department, जब हम government services के exemption के बाद आएंगे तब हमको समझाएंगे बंटी कुमार जी कि vehicle hiring पे GST है या नहीं है. Okay, so we understood from this what are the taxes which have got subsumed under GST. We will understand the features of indirect tax. Very simple, but just we'll run through this. It is the important source of revenue. क्यों important source of revenue है? Direct tax काफी नहीं है. Direct tax, जैसे मैंने बताया था, not everybody is a taxpayer under income tax. तो हर किसी को पकड़ना मुश्किल है, लेकिन हर कोई कंजम्पशन तो करता है. छोटी सी छोटी चीज, जिसके पास पैसा भी नहीं है वो सिगरेट पिएगा, बेसिक खाना खाएगा, बेसिक बिस्किट खाएगा. ऑन दैट ही इज पेइंग टैक्सेस इवन दो ही इज नॉट पेइंग इनकम टैक्स. सो द टैक्स बेस ऑफ जीएसटी इज स्प्रेड वाइडली. इसका नेटवर्क बहुत बहुत फैला हुआ है. गांव में भी जीएसटी पेमेंट होता है, शहर में भी जीएसटी पेमेंट होता है. तो इट इज एन इम्पॉर्टेंट सोर्स ऑफ रेवेन्यू, क्योंकि जो लोग कंज्यूम करते हैं एंड द अमाउंट ऑफ एक्सपेंडिचर इज इंक्रीजिंग बाय द डे. तो इसलिए जैसे जैसे कंजम्पशन बढ़ता है, गवर्नमेंट का भी रेवेन्यू बढ़ता है. सो इट इज एन इम्पॉर्टेंट सोर्स ऑफ रेवेन्यू टू द गवर्नमेंट. इट्स अ टैक्स ऑन कमोडिटीज एंड सर्विसेज. इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स सिर्फ गुड्स पे है ऐसा नहीं है. डायरेक्ट जीएसटी जो है या एनी इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स है, कमोडिटीज और सर्विसेज दोनों के ऊपर है. शिफ्टिंग ऑफ बर्डन, वी हैव सीन दैट द पर्सन हु इज सेलिंग विल शिफ्ट द बर्डन टू द कंज्यूमर. सो द बर्डन गेट्स शिफ्टेड इन इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स regime. There is no perception of direct pinch. बस ऐसे चलते चलते चाय पी लेंगे, जीएसटी भी भर लेंगे, पता ही नहीं चलेगा. बड़ा बड़ा चीज भी खा लेंगे, नेटफ्लिक्स भी डाउनलोड करेंगे, उसके ऊपर भी जीएसटी भर रहे हैं. So there is no perception of any direct pinch. ऐसे ही चलते चलते जब मैं खर्चा कर देता हूँ, टैक्स भर देता हूँ, नॉर्मल becomes normal. It comes to a pinch when the GST rate is increases or prices of the product increases. तब कुछ दर्द होता है, वरना there is no perception of any direct pinch. It is inflationary in nature, क्योंकि जब भी प्राइसेस प्रोडक्ट का प्राइसिंग बढ़ता है तब मेरे GST rate भी पड़ता है. So it is inflationary in nature. It makes the products more costlier because on the product this taxes gets added, right? So it is inflationary in nature. It is a wide tax base, as I had said that the spread is towards the whole of India. At every nook and corner, when anybody consumes anything, GST is there. Only exception is on exempted products. So on that exempted products, there is no GST because they didn't want to. You don't want to, as a country, don't want to charge on the basic necessities of food. जब खाना के ऊपर टैक्स लगाएंगे, हेल्थ के ऊपर टैक्स लगाएंगे, एजुकेशन के ऊपर टैक्स लगाएंगे, तो everybody will not be happy. That's why on those special services, GST is not there. But apart from that, on all products, GST is levied. It promotes social welfare. How? By not taxing goods on essential commodities, taxing low rate on few of the important commodities, taxing high rate on people who can afford it, and taxing extra rates on sin goods, so that the consumption of sin goods is discouraged. That way, it promotes the social welfare. It is regressive in nature. We have discussed this at length. A lot of people have asked the questions. How is it regressive? As and when my income increases, GST doesn't increase. It will still reduce from perspective of my income. So it is regressive in nature. So these are the features of indirect taxes. Any questions here? What, sir, in what proportion IGST will get distributed between center and state, and what is the procedure by which center pays the state share of GST? When we'll come to IGST, I'll get back to you on this, Piyush, because we are still at the basic levels. We will see when we come on what is IGST, how it is distributed, not at this point of time. Can we not cancel registration of GST? We can cancel. If you are feeling that your limit goes below 20 lakhs, then you can cancel. You have to also think that if you cancel this year or next year, after sales it increases, then you still have to register once again. So be mindful that if you're canceling, you have to see a permanent decline ki aapka business less than 20 lakh. Duty on my import, I used to pay customs duty plus duty equivalent to the excise duty, which is called as CVD. SAD is special additional duty, the tax when I pay on my VAT. Okay, on my local purchases, what I used to pay is VAT. That tax is equivalent to special additional duty. And central sales tax, CST, is a tax when I do any interstate purchase or sale. If I do a sale within the state, I will charge VAT. If I do a sale outside the state, then I don't have the power to charge VAT. I will charge CST. It's called as central sales tax. So on a transaction from one state to another state, when there's a transaction, on that central sales tax was payable. Once we register with GST, we have to pay it, whatever be the turnover. Yes, you're right. Ravi Priya, I've explained in English. Which part you didn't understand, please let me know. Can a small retailer in local areas be registered to get benefit of tax? Yes, he can be registered. Whether this type of theory questions like features of GST are directly asked, it could be asked because, or it could be asked in multiple choice question also. Is revenue coming from GST is more than revenue come from direct tax? It is almost in par. I would say that 51-49, that is the way the weightage happens. They are mostly in par. Nikita, what is your question? Earlier, when GST is not introduced in India, that time tax is levied on each process of production. Yes, tax was levied at each manufacturing stage. When you used to manufacture, you had to pay excise duty. So when you used to pay, when you used to manufacture and you used to sell it at that point of time, you used to pay excise duty. Not like your manufacturer paid duty at that point of time. The levy used to trigger, but the point of taxation was shifted to when you clear from your factory. So, but it was a levy on the manufacturer itself. What is inflationary, sir? Taxes are inflationary because as and when the prices increases, the tax also increases, which means that inflation, it is increasing. So taxes, indirect taxes are inflationary in nature. Sir, by registering, we get input tax credit. But if we don't register, we don't get ITC benefit. Correct. We don't get it. Once to get the ITC benefit, you have to be registered. If you're not registered, then you don't get the benefit. So what does it mean by inflationary and wider tax base feature of? Wider tax base means it is spread out to every place. It means it's a wider tax base. And inflationary means as and when the prices of the product increases, tax also increases. That's an example of being inflationary. So for goods like alcohol and tobacco, will the center or state levy taxes? On alcohol and tobacco, tobacco is under GST itself, right? Alcoholic liquor for human consumption is under the, I will tell you because there are some places where both excise duty is still levied, some places where state is still levied. I will tell you on that. If you want, I can just show you that slide. When we discuss, yeah, here it is. This will give you a clarity on various products. You have to understand this on what product what is levied. Alcoholic liquor for human consumption is levied to state excise. Okay, on alcoholic liquor, state excise is levied. Petroleum, diesel, petrol, air turbine fuel, central excise duty is levied plus VAT. Both are levied on this. That's the reason you will see that there's a lot of negative remarks going to the government saying that you are collecting most of the taxes, right? On petroleum products, the price is already increased, crude is increasing, but still government's revenue is also increasing because on that central excise duty and VAT, both are levied. On tobacco, central excise duty and GST is levied. Both are still levied. On opium, Indian hemp and narcotic drugs, state excise and GST is levied. On immovable property, no GST. Fine. So on these four products, you have to remember alcoholic liquor for human consumption, what is levied? Alcoholic liquor for human consumption, state excise is levied, not VAT, not GST, state excise is levied. Okay. On petroleum, crude, diesel, petroleum, air turbine fuel, and natural gas, basically gas and petrol products, what is levied? Central excise duty and VAT is levied. Okay, central excise duty and VAT is levied. On tobacco, central excise duty and GST is levied. On opium, Indian hemp and narcotic drugs, state excise and GST is levied. Clear? Please repeat the full form of CVD and SAD. CVD is countervailing duty. CVD is countervailing duty. SAD is special additional duty. Come on, let's sing a song. CVD is countervailing duty. SAD is special additional duty. Okay. From exam except, do we have to know everything about the tax system before GST? Some aspects, because anything could come for you from the multiple choice questions, so it will be important. On petroleum products, there is no GST, so that people in petroleum business don't register. Petroleum products, what is applicable? Petroleum products, central excise duty and VAT. So they will register under central excise and VAT, but not under GST, right? But when you see a petrol booth, they sell only petrol? No, they sell oil also, right? So for petrol, they will charge the respective excise, central excise duty and VAT. But on those oil products, they have to pay GST. Okay. Any person whose turnover does not exist exemption limit, can he be registered and got the benefit of input tax credit? Yes. So if a person whose turnover did not exist and he is registered, so from that, if he is say having turnover of only 10 lakhs and he is registered, he can claim the benefit of input tax credit. Why on Indian hemp both GST and state excise is levied? It is levied, sir. It is levied, madam, because on some products they wanted to charge both the taxes. State said we will not leave our excise. That is our more important revenue. So they said, okay, you levy and we will levy GST also. On some products, the extra tax is levied because these are all sin goods. So both taxes is legally permitted. In GST, how central government giving share to state government or how tax are shared between them. Topic, as I said, you make a intrastate supply within state. Whenever you do a supply, you have to pay CGST and SGST. CGST goes to the central government, SGST goes to the state government equally. There's nothing like 60-40, 70-30, SNAM, 50-50 percentage always. Whatever taxes, if I say 18%, it means 9% is CGST, 9% is SGST, right? So this half goes to the center, half goes to the state. When I make an interstate sale, I will have to levy full rate. IGST lagana padega. Then I charge IGST. The full amount goes to the center, but the center also is not keeping it with it. It will distribute to the state who had claimed the credit and to whom the credit has to go. I'll give the example through a chart at a later point of time. But understand that IGST is also not like a direct revenue to the government, to the central government. The central government will use it to distribute that to the respective state who has passed the credit. Okay, so it will give the benefit to the state who has moved from one state to another. So IGST doesn't go directly to the central government directly. Lekin CGST directly central government ko jata hai, SGST direct state government ko jata hai. So as the tax burden increased from the date of implementation of GST done earlier, tax burden is not increased, tax base is increased, the tax burden is not increased, the tax collection goes up because the production and consumption goes up, otherwise it is the tax burden has not increased. Sir, no perception of direct pinch means, as I was explaining, if I earn income and you ask me income tax, I feel that there is a direct pinch on my income. But when I consume something and indirectly you're asking me something and the price is embedded and hidden in it, so it's perfectly fine. There is no perception of direct pinch. It is indirectly pinching, but I don't bother because on the 10 rupees, I know I'm not paying 5 rupees for goods and 5 rupees taxation. I'm paying 9 rupees, 40 paisa, 9 rupees, 9 rupees also on the goods, 1 rupees on tax, I don't mind. So there is no direct pinch there. What is CENVAT? The central VAT, the central excise duty, what I used to pay earlier, the credit was called as CENVAT. Okay, like how I call input tax credit under GST, it was called as CENVAT under central excise duty. What is CST? Last 2 minutes, ask your questions. We will wind up with the day. This is my last slide. So any questions you ask, then we will move to the next thing from slide number 7. In the next class, we will understand how the GST started, the history of GST, and then we'll go into the constitutional provisions. So now I will just answer your questions. What is CENVAT is answered. What is CST? It's like a tax on the sales. When I used to sell something within the state, I used to pay VAT. But when I used to sell within India, from one state to another state, I had to pay a tax called central sales tax. No GST on land and buildings? Yes, no GST on land and completed buildings. But if it is an under construction building, then GST is applicable because on under construction, there is a service element. So on that, GST will be applicable. Sir, GST is a single tax for all. Then why they are charging other taxes also? Some products are outside the scope. That's the reason other taxes are still levied. So whatever products could come into the tax base, they've got it. What couldn't come, like we've seen the petroleum products, there's no consensus received because state government's main revenue is on petroleum. So they didn't want to leave it. And excise duty on liquor also is their main revenue. So they couldn't leave that off. That's why they've said, you please continue levying this because of you're not coming in saying that I will not leave my revenue. I don't want to take away my share of the cake. I will keep the thing itself outside. So let the other things continue. Let the GST continue on other products. Those products, what we are fighting for, let us continue fighting on that. Okay. So they didn't want this to be a showstopper for bringing GST in, because if that comes under GST, central state government's revenue will fully go off and it will be bifurcated between center and state, which states will not accept. So on those products, states wanted their diplomacy, they wanted their authority. So they said, okay, continue do that. But other products, let us bring into GST. What tax charged on immovable property? Property tax. When you go register a property, you have to pay some property tax. No, that is charged on your immovable property. What does it mean by wider tax base and inflationary as a feature of GST? Because GST is there, that's why the tax base is increased. And any feature of indirect tax is When you increase income increase, GST is also as a percentage of the things, right? If I sell something at 100 rupees, you pay 18% on 100 rupees. If it is sold at 200 rupees, you'll pay 18% on 200 rupees. So it's inflationary in nature. Does, sir, any buyer purchaser can register under that? Yes, any buyer or purchaser can get registered under that. Will the CGST collected by central distributed to states? If so, in what basis? No. CGST, what is collected by the central, it is its share, it will not give to the state, because equally we have decided, no, not like 70-60, 70-40, 70-30 or 60-40, equal. When I have decided that I will collect 50, you will collect 50, then equal share we are doing. Why should central government give something to the states? Nothing giving. Once CGST is collected, it has gone to the central government. Once SGST is collected, it goes to the state government. Clear, Raghav? Good participation, good amount of questions being asked. Really happy that in the first session, more than my deliberation, it was more of your questions, and I'm happy to answer them. Is there any road tax, sir? There's no road tax. There is a toll which is collected, saying that, okay, you're using that road, for that you pay some tax. That is a toll tax, but it is not a road tax. Okay. Thank you very much. We'll assemble back on the 24th and we'll take this chapter further. We'll try to close this quickly and move into the concept of supply. Okay. Thank you, sir. Please explain UT-GST Acts exempt. Sneha Gupta, please ask your question in detail. What is the motive of GST introduction? The motive of GST introduction is to reduce the taxes. Earlier, excise duty so much high rate, then VAT also so much high rate, tax on tax was there, not good for the business, not good for the economy. So to reduce the tax burden, ultimately the prices of the product will get impacted, the customer will get impacted. To reduce all of those cases, GST is introduced. That is the main motive of bringing in GST. Okay, and to dump things under equal, like VAT was there, central sales tax was there, so many taxes were confusing. So it's to bring a common playing field, GST was introduced. Sneha Gupta, you can ask your question. I'll be answering it now. Ankur, thank you very much. Very nice to hear your kind words that I could sail you through smoothly. I am also enjoying. Very nice. Good night, Sushil. Good night, Neha, Piyush, Ayush Agarwal, Varshita. Thank you very much and good night, everyone. Sneha, you can ask your question in the next class. We will answer them. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Good night. Have a good day. Good night. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.